What up friends, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. As some of you have noticed, I started adopting a new triad of primary colors. If you're following me on Instagram or on Snapchat, you may have seen this. And so today I want to demonstrate how I paint a full scene using this trio, which is basically cerulean blue, magenta, and cadmium yellow. Okay, these three, and this painting will be done exclusively with these. And I do plan on publishing a few videos on color theory and why this is so smart to choose just a few primaries to go with, and just 3 primaries and just make a whole painting with them. We're gonna talk about that. For now, I do want to just demonstrate. And this painting was a bit complex, and I definitely didn't get the exact result I wanted, but I just wanted to show you my process and to sort of document my practice session of using this set, okay, this triad set. So before we get started, just a quick note and reminder, if you have any questions for me for the upcoming Q&A video, leave them down below in the comment section, okay? Don't forget it, I really appreciate it, and anything, this is your stage to ask any question you have, okay? So let's get started. Okay, so I'm starting here with the drawing, and I'm just trying to assess what the division should be between the land and the sky. This is the 2 main shapes of this drawing, and so I'm just trying to understand where the line of the land actually hits the edges of the page. I have a confession to make. This is literally the 3rd time I'm recording this. One time I recorded this, and then a friend called me like a WhatsApp call, and it just canceled my whole recording, went to crap. And then I started another one, and my phone had a problem, so I'm highly furious. It's like the 3rd time I say the exact same things. It's a bit annoying, I have to say. But anyway, we're gonna shake that off and continue. So I'm dividing the land area into the major shapes based on the lights and darks. And as you can see, I put some very weak lines there just to indicate where the changes in value happen. And now I just mark very lightly where I'm going to put the buildings and like the center of interest of this painting. And the reason I mark it is because I want to understand, get a general idea of how big how much space it's gonna take, okay? And once I know that, you'll notice I just did some scribbles there that let me know where it's gonna be. Once I know that, I can get onto the actual details. So now I'm drawing the house on the left side, and it's a little isolated from the rest. Getting in that chimney here, the real details, now I'm just putting them in. I'm going to zoom in so you can better see what I'm doing, and slowly but surely I build it from left to right. Many times you may find that it's complex. These types of scenes are not always easy to do, so the approach I like to take is I just go, especially if everything is close together, I like to just choose a direction. So in this example, I just go from left to right, and I just go one by one, structure by structure. I'm not making myself too stressed about it. Really just going at it line by line, comparing, taking my time, understanding where to put everything, really observing the scene. Kind of hit the tripod at this point, so sorry about the shakiness. Yeah, so now I'm working on the roof. I'm gonna close up the roof, then do the vertical line for the edge of the building. Really take it step by step, and this is literally the only way of really doing this. You know, like, you have to be patient. This roof is actually the strongest highlight of this entire painting. It's gonna be completely white. I'm going to leave it entirely blank. Yeah, now putting in those chimneys. And the cast shadow of the chimneys is going to be a really important element that will help us convey the light in this painting. And you'll notice how I got the proportions wrong. The building I'm putting in right now is the red building, and it should be longer. It should come much more to the right, continue more to the right, but I kind of stopped it a bit early and already moved to the wall of the church, as you can see now. But yeah, it happens. Sometimes you don't get the proportions 100% accurately. That's totally fine. Now I'm drawing the roof of the church, and these angles can be a little tricky sometimes, so you have to just assess or judge them correctly. What I do, when I have diagonal lines like this one is I try to compare them to a nearby horizontal or vertical line. Okay, so I just try to understand what the angle is compared to a vertical line, to a perfectly vertical line, or to a perfectly horizontal line, and this gives me a better sense of how to deal with this. Now, this group of roofs that I'm working on now is the rightmost, and I just love this part of the drawing because this is where we're gonna put the really dark shadows in, and we're going to create a strong contrast that will look really, really good. Okay, so it's a major part actually of the painting. This is a really important part. You see all of these roofs with the sides of the buildings, really putting them one by one, and still not concerned with the bottoms of the buildings. I'm just building, creating the shapes of the roofs. Now, I didn't leave enough room, unfortunately, for that large, tall building on the right with the chimney in the middle and the two antenna-like thingies, and I feel a bit sorry for that, but it's just because of me misjudging how much space I'm gonna need actually. Next up, I'm putting all the foliage, so near the edges, the bottoms of the buildings. This is where all the trees go, a lot of greens there. This is actually very challenging. The lower bottom parts of buildings is something that can be very challenging because if you don't close them off correctly, they can look a little awkward. So what I'm doing now is, which is actually what happens in the picture, is I'm just ending the bottoms of the buildings with some foliage because there's some bushes under them or trees or whatever it is. By the way, I also zoomed in on the reference image, so I hope you can see all the details well. When I zoom out of the drawing, I also zoom out of the reference and so on. I try to do that together. So now in terms of all of these buildings, I'm done. I'm just putting in that area that's a little dirt. It doesn't have green fields or anything, or maybe they've sown something, but it still hasn't grown. And now I'm putting in another very interesting part of this painting, which is that isolated house on the left, or it's a barn or maybe a farm. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe just someone who likes to isolate themselves. And this is another major part because it is contrasting very strongly with the darks. So it's gonna be surrounded by dark greens, but it's gonna stay white, bluish white kind of with the shadows. Yeah, so just closing off some final details, and yep, this is done and ready for painting. So as I said, I'm just using a very simple color scheme. So I'm using 3 primaries. I use cerulean blue, magenta, and chromium yellow hue deep. For the sky, which is what I'm mixing right now, I'm just using the cerulean blue and magenta to kill off some of the intensity and brightness of the cerulean. I don't want it to overpower everything, so I'm adding some magenta to neutralize some of it. So it becomes this reddish blue. Now, with moleskins especially, you have to be careful with these kinds of washes. I find them very challenging actually, and here again I wasn't able to get an even wash. I just find that as soon as you add more color, it just interferes with the previous layer. It's just not the best paper you can work on, unfortunately. It's really good for quick sketches. I love it, but for if you want to go really detailed and you have a lot of wet washes, and it's just not ideal always. Which reminds me that today I did another version of this very same scene, but this time I did it on a good watercolor paper. Legion paper actually sent me a block. They were really cool. We talked a bit over email, and they sent me cold pressed paper, and it's just so much easier on better paper, let me tell you. Yeah. So now there are a few spots that I left uncolored accidentally. And right now I'm just mixing a bit of, well, before that I tried to lift off some of the paint just to create some clouds. I'm really not sure I got the impression I wanted. It's hard for me to tell because we as artists always see our own work very differently from other people, and I'm sure every person sees an artwork differently, but the person who made it, who watched it slowly turn into a more complete piece of art, usually it's it's the weirdest for us. We usually don't see things exactly as they are. This is why mirroring is such a cool trick. If you put a painting in front of a mirror, you get to see a lot of the things you missed. So yeah. So now again, I missed some of the wash, so I'm gonna fill that in with some blue, same mixture. But the thing is, washes become patchy very easily on moleskin paper, and so I'm now I'm filling in these gaps, but then I'm coming back, I'm washing my brush thoroughly, drying it on the paper, on the towel, sorry, and then blending in those added patches. Just to make it look a little more natural and as part of the sky. I wasn't able to do it perfectly because it was already a little too late, but it's still good enough, I guess. So now, what I want to do is actually mix some blues for the buildings, and because I just want to get rid of some of their whites. Okay, it feels too light for me. So I'm mixing green, but I'm not gonna do the green now. I'm actually going to start with the blue for the houses. Just getting rid of some of the whites and creating an impression of shadows. This is meant as an underwash. It's not going to be, of course, the final one. It's going to get much darker than this, okay? Just getting rid of some of the white here. The only thing you want to be careful of is to preserve the real serious highlights, okay? Now my logic was that I'm going to put the blues and then I'm going to blend them with the green. This is why I pre-mix the green. And this is actually the most arduous wash. Arduous, that's like a real good word, no? So it's a serious word, so I'm not sure if it's the correct one, but let me know. If it is, then I'm gonna feel real proud of my English. So anyway, this feels like the most tough wash that's really tedious, takes time to build it up. Moving from right to left, added a bit of magenta. The green initially was just, the blue and the yellow, but then when you add a little magenta into it, it neutralizes it and turns it into a more brown. And if you want to get a real brown, this is what I do here. I just added some magenta and some yellow. I didn't really get a brown, it's more of an orange, but once you add a little blue to it, which is exactly what I did right now, it becomes a little more brown. Okay, so I'm slowly learning how to use this as a primaries triad. And how to produce everything I want using it. So yeah, now I'm just gonna mix a little bit of a darker green because it felt to me like the left side needed some darkening. And this house is just, I'm telling you, it's gonna be really good because it's surrounded by very dark values that are just gonna make it look really cool, okay? And with these large washes, they really challenge me. Especially if I need to mix again some other paints, and you see me hurrying here, like really in a hurry to continue the wash before it dries on me, before I lose the edge. And now I'm using wetter wash. I don't know why I didn't switch to the larger brush. I think I'm using the smaller one, which is a bit stupid. Or I'm not sure, now that I look at it. Maybe I switched now. Yeah, I switched just now. Earlier I was using the small one and it wasn't so good. So yeah, really, this was a sticking point for me in the past, but I kind of got over it. But still, I just forgot for a long time. In the past, I would just do the huge washes with a small brush, even though I had a larger one. I don't know if I was lazy to change them or scared that it'll take time and then I'll waste like the 5 seconds it takes. But yeah. Anyway, this really concludes the very first wash. We have everything almost covered aside from the highlights, and I'm starting to mix a darker green. Now to get the green darker, all you do is you have the chromium yellow, you have the blue, but now you add significantly larger amounts of magenta. Now what I discovered when I put it is that I took it a little too extreme and it's a bit too dark. Now you have a few options when that happens. You can just add some water to the wash, but then you need to be really careful when you go back into the wash and add the more watery mixture because it can interfere with an existing wash. Another option is to just do what I do and spread it out as much as possible. You saw me spreading it out to the right. Now I'm spreading it more to the left, trying to not create any puddles of paint here. And yeah, the tricky part is really making sure the washes don't become too boring or too even. So now I'm kind of adding a bit blue into it, trying to get it to be more on the blue side, just to create some variation on it. Yeah, I learned this from just watching a lot of really good watercolor artists, and I see that I just saw that a lot of them do it. Some don't do it, but the style that I tend to connect with the most is sort of the loose, a bit loose and impressionistic, but also like it's important for me to have a variety of colors. I don't like when it's just just one. So now I'm trying to add some, there's like a road coming through there. I wasn't really sure what I'm doing at this point. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, trying to vary it as I go. I'm sorry if the recordings are a bit patchy. I had to pause again and just send them, whatever. So now I'm making the green much more green, more pure. I remixed some of the blue and yellow to create a cleaner green, if you will. Just to make sure it looks good and there's a good variety. And I'm painting around that brown area, but I'm soon going to cover it with darker brown. For the field here, I just decide oddly enough to paint the shapes of the lines of trees or whatever it is that's growing there and leave some of it pretty light. I later on, I believe, come back and add some darker to it. A lot of this is, it's a mix, like the whole process of watercolor fascinates me sometimes because you go through so much. It's like the painting at some point looks disgustingly ugly, and I know I may sound like a broken record by now because I say that a lot, but I really, if there's one thing I learned recently, is to really postpone my judgment of how good or bad a painting is, because you just can't see it sometimes, and the painting can be really good, but or have good potential, and you'll just feel like in the past I would get to this very same result and I would just stop sometimes because I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't see the potential in it. I would feel like I messed up or I did some kind of mistake, but it's just not true, you know. It just takes some time and some more work to bring out the good part. So I'm stopping the wash here because this is where the lighter yellow part starts. And I really didn't have any idea how to approach the lower part, and you'll see this soon. Right now I'm just mixing a bit of a darker brown mixture for this empty area. But you will see I really didn't know what to do with the bottom part here. So I kind of just dry brushed some of it, and in the second version I did of this that was a little more organized. Today I did another version of this very same painting, as I think I mentioned. I I kind of also didn't know what to do with the foreground there. Because I just tried to create an impression and make it look like the picture, but it's just ridiculous. There's no need to copy the image exactly. So what I should have done is just kept it a little cleaner, a little more empty. But anyway, yeah. So now trying to dry brush some of it, getting in. I think it's really lucky for me that I used this limited palette, because the colors, even though they may not be like the best mixes, they still, you can still recognize it's all under the same scheme because I'm using the same three primaries, so it still kind of works, you know what I mean? Yeah, so if I would have just tried to mix all the paints, all the colors I see, it would just end up being a disaster. So anyway, I'm not sure why I did this with the small brush. Probably should have done it with a larger brush, the dry strokes. But yeah, this is something really I'm still learning. And of course, the moleskin paper doesn't have that much of a texture, which can cause some issues as well and prevent the texture from showing. It's really smooth actually. So now that I'm mixing the orange for the roofs here, and I'm just going to start covering them. I don't adhere to what I see in the picture, aside from values, because values are really important. But in terms of the actual colors, I'm taking my artistic freedom. And I'm just using this sort of an orange-red, because it just looks really good, I think. And slowly painting into the roofs. And the thing is, I used a large quantity of paint here, and this is a video I'm gonna do soon about really wet paint and how hard it is to control. So I'm trying to spread it all across the roofs and not bring in new paint, but rather just play with the puddle of water and move it on the page. Now, I find that it was a bit challenging just to paint this in the shape I wanted. So you see me going really carefully, trying to color in the shapes, but still messing up some of it. This is why I did actually today a very good exercise of painting inside shapes, using a very hard approach on purpose, sort of making it easier, harder on me, just so that I know how to handle it when I do it actually in a painting. I will explain exactly what I mean by that. So what I basically did was force myself to paint with the brush by holding it at the very edge, close to not to the tip, but to the upper part. And this really makes it harder to control the shapes you're drawing and the lines you're making. It makes it significantly harder. So I forced myself to work like this because I just assumed that if I do it, it'll be easier when I'm doing the real thing. And I do feel like my brush techniques really improved by just doing that exercise. I will make a video on it, on how I got the idea to do this kind of exercise. It's actually a really cool story, so I think you're gonna like it. I got the idea from a book I read. So anyway, now I'm mixing some darker blues because this is for the shadows in between the houses. Okay, so sorry, just had a hiccup. Weird. My voice is, my throat is so tired. It's like third recording. Oh my god. So, putting in the shadows. Now, this is where it's going to be really cool. This is where it's going to shine because of the strong contrast that this will create. Now, notice how the roofs are still not completely dry, and that's okay. I kind of want them to blend into one another again. Just a bit, not too much. Because I will add another darker wash. By the way, it was just at the time I didn't plan for it. I just saw that I need another wash, so I just did it. But anyway, yeah, you see some of the roofs are dry, just some of them aren't. And I'm just using that same opportunity to put in the windows. The windows are literally just small, short stripes. That's all there is to it. So let's zoom in so you can better see what's going on here. Now I'm darkening that right side of the building. It's funny because I find that when I do smaller or quicker sketches, my color selection is sometimes better. I don't know why. Like today, when I did this painting again today, I messed up with the colors of the rooftops. I didn't get that beautiful bright orange. I kind of used a muted red. So it's really interesting to see how sometimes you're able to nail one element but not the other one. Something turns out really great, some other things don't. And I think with time, the more you work on stuff, the more you develop strengths. So you may find that you are always able to match the values you see, which makes your drawings read very well, but the colors don't look so good. Or you may find out that you match the values, but the drawing is inaccurate. Or you may find that the drawing is inaccurate, but something else ruins it. And it's just a constant learning curve of improving all the aspects you're weak at. So yeah, now what I'm focusing on, just on a macro level, is improving every little aspect and really building challenging practice routines for myself, because I find it really makes me grow and improve at a much faster rate. The contrast on this building in particular is beautiful because the roof is kept to such a light value. So this is one of my favorite parts actually of this painting. And the moment we're going to put the chimneys in, it's going to be even better. Yeah, this weird structure here, I'm not sure exactly what it is. It doesn't really look like a building. It's more of a concrete structure, so I'm not sure. Not sure exactly what it is. But I really simplify a lot of the things here, so yeah. Just getting in the chimney here. And if I recall correctly, I will go back, as I said, with an even darker wash. Now here I messed up. The roof was still a little wet. Just on this point, I guess it was a dent in the paper and it made all the water puddle there, so yeah, but it's okay. Didn't lose the impression really. And now moving on to that house on the left, you cannot see it in the reference here where I show it. Apologies for that, but I will. There is a link to the original reference image in the description box. I forgot to mention, so you can download it and look at it in your own free time and whenever you want, but I like to show it in the video as well, just to give some idea of what I'm doing, what I'm simplifying, how I'm simplifying, and all of that good stuff. Yeah, so now I'm mixing the very dark greens, or is it for the buildings? I'm still not sure, because also the trees should get darker now. So yeah, I'm just drawing some darker greens for the foliage here. And if you look at the reference also, you'll be able to see this. The trees are really dark. They're probably the darkest thing in this image, together with the right side of the roof of the church, which is also really dark. So again, moving on with the green, layering it on top, and a lot of the darkness of the washes come from them being not the first wash. Okay, so this is why this wash, I didn't really have to work this hard to get it to be really dark, but the fact that it layers upon another wash helps it become darker immediately. Okay, so I'm just throwing in those trees in there because everything is green, but some parts are darker. And you also noticed I shadowed the bottom part. I did a stripe, a long stripe of darker green, also to indicate that edge of the green fields in the beginning of the brown area. Okay. Now this small shed or structure with the very light roof also should has very dark trees around it. The base of the largest building also has some dark trees. This house on the left also, just spreading them out throughout this wash, trying to get a good balance between the darks and the lights, and really just follow what I see basically. In the image, not 100%, not exactly the same, but just create an impression. There is a very green, happy green field right now where I'm putting these lines in. So I'm just throwing it in there, trying to make it look good. Maybe darkening the edge of the field again. This is a part that I got really good in the newer version of this very same view. But anyway, yeah, this house is, again, I'm sorry you can't see this right now in the reference, but this house was surrounded by some very dark trees. And now we're getting to the really fun part. This is where I'm actually adding that even darker wash. So you can see some of my hair, sorry about that. I needed to really focus and come closer to the paper. So I'm putting in those darker lines because they are there in the picture if you look up close. This is sort of a border between the roof and the actual building. So I'm adding them in. I don't really remember if I actually come back and darken everything, but yeah, under the shed, under this part, and this very same dark tone I'm gonna use again for the chimneys and again for the roof of the church here. And this is where it really gets its shape, okay, when you put in those darks. This is where it kind of steps out of the ugly stage. Well, it still stays a bit in the ugly stage because I feel like the brown area could have been a little better. And there's just a lot of things going on here. It was a challenging scene, I have to say. Yeah, just getting in that shadow under the roof, gonna make it look really good. And now I'm really trying to figure out where I'm taking this because there are a few things to add here. So the roof is darker on the right side because it's less exposed to light. Same goes for this roof also. Just trying to add in more and more to build the shapes of objects. The shapes you see are literally composed of just different values, different levels of darknesses. So yeah, I'm coming back here and just darkening all of the sides of the buildings because they are significantly darker. So it was important. And mixing some more darks just to add some more small details here and there for the fields, for the houses. This is almost done, really. Just adding some details to the foreground. It felt a little empty and I really didn't know what to put in there, so I just stick out these blades of grass. Should have probably made them a little greener, a little lighter, but still I think it gets the right impression. Yeah, and I will share with you the more well planned painting and show you the difference because I think it's fascinating, especially when compared to this very quick version. Okay, so this took like about 30 minutes, something like this, maybe 40 minutes, 45 maybe, because I cut some parts out. But today's one took like 2.5 hours or 3 hours, something like this. I had to really work at it patiently, so yeah. Now mixing some more pure greens, just trying to darken that area, trying to see what other small details I should add, but this is really done. I'm trying to actually strengthen the border between the lighter and the darker parts, okay? Because it's a bit stronger in the reference image. I didn't really get that impression that I wanted here. So I feel the feeling of depth suffers a bit. But yeah, this is really done now. Just a few more touches with the chimneys and the sides of the buildings. I decided to yet again darken them further because they didn't seem dark enough, and also now the little chimneys will really bring this to life, as you'll see. The strong contrasts and the shadows really can create an impression really fast. It's amazing sometimes to see how something wakes up and the lights come to life when you add the darks. You know, there is no lights without the darks. So this is exactly what we're doing now, adding those very final touches of darks. And just one last chimney here and there. This is really done now. This is the end of this painting. Friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. Here is the final result. So yeah, definitely a challenging subject here, and I don't really know what I think about it, but I'm really pleased with the colors, and the colors look unified and even because I'm using just 3 primaries, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this demo, and as a reminder, again, don't forget to leave any questions you have in the description box, in the comment section below, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, whether it's art related or personal questions. So yeah, this is it. Take care, and I will see you again soon.